This video is to show you how to mount the Y-axis limit switch mount to your base on both of our machines, our mill and our lathe and our chucker lathe. Virtually every mount is mountable to an existing screw hole or your stepper motor mount. The only one that's not is your Y-axis, which has to be drilled and tapped into your base. So this is one of our chucker lathe bases. The way the mount is set up is it fits right on the flat, and this is the stepper motor side of the base, and it'll fit right on the flat, flush with the end of it and almost flush with the top. What you get, you'll have your mount, you will have your limit switch, you have your two 540 screws, your two self-threading number 2 Phillip head screws, your mounting back plate, and then you get a 1/8 inch dowel pin that's got a 90-degree point ground onto the end of it. Okay, this is your transfer punch. So what we do is by hand, you hold it flush and get it square. Okay, what we're going to do is first we're going to punch and drill for this first hole right here. Then we're going to drill it, tap it, and then we're going to actually put a screw in there and mount this in place. And then we're going to adjust it up and down until it's square, and then transfer punch and drill and tap the second hole. So the first one is a little trickier, the second one's pretty easy. But for the most part, you just want to hold it flush. And this can be off a little bit, it's not going to ruin it for you. Put the transfer punch in like so. Get a small hammer. And you will see that you have a prick punch mark right here. If it's not big enough, the easiest way to do this is to take the prick punch off, put it in the existing hole and hold it in place. Get a little better wrap. All this indent is for is to get your drill started. Without an indent, when you try to drill it, your drill's going to walk all over. Worst case scenario is that you would drill up and into this surface here. It's a 540 screw that we're using, 2 of them, so the drill size for that is a number 38. Cordless or a corded hand drill is all you really need. The 540 screw, when it's assembled, is sticking out 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the hole about 1/2 inch, 3/8 to 1/2 inch deep, so I have plenty of drill depth on it, and then I'm going to hand tap the 540 hole. So right now, and on most of your newer cordless drills, it has a nice little level, so you can actually make sure you're level and square. And all I'm going to do is put my drill into that little indent. I'm going to make sure that I'm both square up and down and side to side. I'm going to hold it in place. If you have oil, put a little bit of oil on the end of the drill. And I've got it started good right there. My angle's good. Now I'm going to go for my finished depth. That looks good. Okay, now I'm going to take a 540 tap. I've got some nick stick. Just going to put some of that on the tap. And now I'm going to tap the hole. Get it started, and again, you want to make sure your tap is square. Hold it square. Just start threading in nice and easy. That looks square. That's looking good. Now this is a small tap. If you're going in and you feel it bind, then don't force it any further. Just back it out about 1 revolution, and then start going back in again. And you may have to back it out several times as you're going through. You can feel what the tension is when you're tapping. When you get to the bottom of the hole, the tension's going to increase a lot. and I'm not there yet. Alright, and that's feeling pretty close to being there right there. That's as far as I want to go. Okay, backing it out, just steady it, and back it all the way out. So I've gone easily 3/8 of an inch deep right there with the thread, so that's more than I need for my screw. And now we're going to wipe it all off. And what I'm going to do is use the first 540 screw and actually mount this to my base. Allen wrench. If your drilled and tapped hole is angled slightly, it's not going to matter for this, because once you tighten it down, it will actually square the part up to the base. So right now I've got it snug, and I've got virtually no step off from the top here, and I've got a pretty big one here. So I want to get this nice and square so it feels the same front and back, so my step is the same, which means my part is sitting nice and square. All right, I'm going to lock it in place. Now I'm going to use the actual part again as a guide for my punch, and this is much easier. This is done a lot easier now because you actually have something to hold it in place, and you have to hold it with your hand. So I'm going to hold it there. Gives me a solid punch mark. Okay, now I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to drill and tap the second hole. And if you can see, I've got the first hole drilled, and the second hole I've got my nice punch mark for it. So that punch mark is plenty good for getting my drill started. And I'm just going to hold it square again, get it into the drill hole. Check my angle out here. Okay, good start. A little bit deeper. Again, I've got pretty close to a 1/2 inch depth right there. That's looking pretty good. If you want, this is an aluminum oxide drill, so it's black. If you have a bright, high-speed drill, you can actually measure from the end here with a pair of calipers and put a mark on your drill, so you know when you've gotten to the full depth. Makes it a little easier. So then again, we're going to tap this hole. And again, we will get our tap nice and square. That looks good. Again, if it feels like it's getting a little tight, you're getting some resistance to your tap, just stop and back it out a turn, turn and a half, and go back in. Don't force it. You don't want to break your tap off. That becomes a mess. In the case that you do break your tap off, one screw is actually adequate to to hold your Y-axis mounting block in place. So you haven't ruined it entirely. You still have a good amount to hold on with. Right there's the bottom of my hole. And I'm just going to bring it out. Now, as far as the mounting goes, when you put this on, your holes are guaranteed to not be perfect. You didn't do this on a machine, you did it by hand. So what you want to do is get your one screw started, then get your second screw started, so they're both in there and threading in a couple threads. All right. And then once they're started, then you come in and tighten them down. And I would get them both down to snug before I go for the full tighten on it. And you can see that you have a little bit of play in the holes too. So if your hole was not perfect, you can align this by hand still at this point. So what I'm going to do is leave the front one loose. I'm going to tighten the back one. And I'm just going to, you can see with it right there, I can adjust up and down a little bit. I'm just going to adjust it square right there. And I'm going to tighten the back one, the front one rather. And you can also see that as I tighten them up, it actually squares itself up on the back. So I've got it nice and square right there. And we're looking good. So that's your retrofit, your drill and tap for your Y-axis base. Next what we'll show is how to actually set up the limit switches. We'll do the Y-axis, the X-axis, and the Z-axis.